Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, Jess Cervantes. Hopefully, I'm saying that the right way. Who
Yes, you are.
has been on a very inspiring journey through powerlifting, primarily for personal reasons so far, but is soon set to compete. Fingers crossed as well. This lady has a super inspirational story of what she's been through in her life to get to this point. And as always with my interviews, it's not just about sports, but we'll be going a bit deeper into the hope, the inspiration, the positivity, and how anything is possible with the right mindset and with belief. So, Jess, thank you for coming on the show, and it's a real
My
pleasure.
pleasure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely my honor and pleasure. I'm so excited.
Likewise. We've got a lot to talk about, so it's wonderful
Yes.
to have you here. So, I think the place to start with you is at the beginning. Now, I don't always start with everybody at the beginning, but in your case, we will. So let's go back in time a little bit to where you were born, where you grew up, and just find out a little bit about your early life, if that's okay, please.
Absolutely. I grew up in Southern California in San Bernardino. And if you've ever heard about San Bernardino, it's not one of the nicest places to live. But that's where I was born, raised, went to school. That's where my family is from. And I stayed there until I joined the military. So it was my mom, my dad, me, two brothers, and one sister. So there was four of us, and I'm the youngest of four.
Right. So that was the start of your life and your journey. And as you mentioned, obviously not the nicest of places to grow up. You mentioned that. Now, with my interviews, I never dwell on anything negative. It's all about the positive and how people have overcome things. So you mentioned about joining the military. Was that always your plan to get out of that situation and to improve your life, or was that more of a sort of a snap decision or something that came a little bit quicker?
It was kind of 50-50. Um, I think I had mentioned to you before, I had a extremely rough childhood. My father was a violent alcoholic, just violent. So I grew up in a very tumultuous, violent, rough home. That was my upbringing. And a lot of it I've forgotten. Doctors tell me that that's a coping mechanism where we block part of that out. So I grew up in that environment. And I think deep down, it was always my plan to get out of that, to try to get a better life. And then my parents divorced when I was about the sixth grade. And then my mom just had responsibility for us kids, and we were poor. So when my parents were together, it was a tumultuous life, but we were rich. Then when my dad left, he took his money with him. And then so single mom and she's poor. So I've lived both. And then I tried college, really wasn't for me. I gave it a go. You know, everyone says once you graduate high school, you got to go to college, got to go to college. But that's not true. I tried it. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. And deep down, I knew I wanted to be a firefighter. I knew from a very young age I wanted to be a firefighter. I knew that was my calling. I knew that's what I wanted to be. But I had all these other voices telling me, oh, you need to try this, you need to try this. I'm like, fine. So then right about when I was about to turn 21, by that time, my mom had remarried. Wonderful man. My stepdad was a very wonderful man. He has since passed, but he was military. And that's where I caught the military bug. And he said, well, you want to be a firefighter, right? I was like, absolutely. He goes, well, why don't you join the Air Force? And I was like, I don't want to join the Air Force. I want to be a firefighter. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, you could be a firefighter and be in the military. And I was like, huh, okay. I'm like, I can serve my country and be a firefighter. I'm in. So that's really where the military part of it came in. I had never been exposed to the military, didn't know anything about it. I know my uncle had served in Vietnam, but that's about as close to the military as I got until my stepdad put that in my head. And that was the end. I signed up, went to MEPS, passed, and joined the military. And that's how the military came about. So it's 50-50, part
Wow.
accident, part, yeah.
Yeah, that's very
So
cool. What a cool
yeah.
story, of that it shows, doesn't it, just what a positive influence and a little bit of encouragement can do. You know what you were saying with your stepfather giving you that encouragement. It sounds like he gave you a lot, but it does also only take a little bit to push someone in the right direction and show
Yeah.
someone what's possible.
Yeah. He showed that interest. And look where it led. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good life lesson in and of itself. So we'll go into the military stuff in a moment. Before we do, I wanted to just get your thoughts on something here. With obviously growing up with violence being sort of the norm, and obviously a lot of people, it sort of feels normal in a way, even though they know it's wrong as well, because it's what they know. But I would just like to get your thoughts on somebody who is in that situation, or somebody who knows somebody who's in that situation, because obviously the great thing about an interview like this, it's out there on the internet, people can listen to it,
Yeah.
and people can listen to it in privacy, so they can then obviously pass this along and hopefully filter down some advice of how people can get out of that situation, if you get where I'm coming from. So
Yes.
basically your advice for people in that situation, or people who know someone in that situation, would be absolutely awesome, please.
I think the first, what you touched on is it's not normal. It's not. At the time when I was growing up, from my first memory, it was an alcoholic father, violence. It wasn't anything for cops or multiple cops to be at our house on a weekend basis, which is mostly when he drank. It, and at that time, it seemed normal. I thought that that type of living for a kid was normal. And I grew up in that. It wasn't until I got older and started to get a little smarter and a little more streetwise and left the home. And now I look back and I'm just like, that wasn't normal. But I also had to learn that it wasn't my fault. So also during that time, I was being sexually abused by multiple people, not in my immediate family, but people very close to my family. So here I am, a child, right, that's supposed to be taken care of and loved and growing up in a loving environment. And I wasn't. I was getting sexually abused. I was dealing with the alcoholic, violent father. My mom was young at the time. She didn't know what to do. And I'm trying to go to school and be a normal kid. And it was just, now that I look back, it was such an extremely painful time in my life. And I would tell people it's not normal. Whatever, if you're listening to this and you're a young kid or you're an adult or you know somebody, that is not a normal, healthy environment for a child. They need to be out of that. And whatever you can do to help them along with that. And I got blessed, like I said, later on with my stepfather was an amazing man. But once I went into high school and joined sports again, I had amazing coaches who knew that there was something wrong, and they did little things to help me along the way. And so I was blessed by having different people come into my life. And you can affect somebody, a child, someone in high school, in any job. You don't have to be a counselor. You don't have to be a minister. You don't have to be a doctor. You could be an everyday person and help someone in that situation. But it was now when I talk about it, it's a little easier. But that time of my life was, it was beyond painful. There was so many negative things happening in my life and compounding. I mean, I even contemplated suicide. I never did it as a child. I even contemplated at that age. That's not a healthy thought for a child to have. It's not a healthy thought at any age, but especially for a child when they should be enjoying their life. And I mean, it had a negative impact on me for a very long time. I mean, it carried through until my adulthood. I would say up until probably 5, 8 years ago, when I finally got past it. I just didn't know that I was carrying it with me. And it impacted me. And if you see that happening or someone, you got to step in. You have to, whatever you can do. I mean, there's so many resources out there now too. Now, when I was a kid and going through that, my doctor knew what was going on, but they were like, meh. Back then it was a different time. Now's the time we're talking about it. We're bringing it out. No one talked about sexual abuse of a child. When I was growing out, no one talked about alcoholism or violence in the home back then. You just didn't, especially when I grew up. I was growing up Catholic. You just didn't talk about those things. And now look how far along we are talking about these things. And there's so many resources out there to help. So I think we're making better progress for sure. And we definitely need to, especially in those situations. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's come a long way in terms of awareness, in terms of opening up and everything. And it's got a way to go, but it has come a long way as well.
Sure.
And I'd just like to take this moment just to say thank you for being an open book and sharing that, because it's not an easy thing to do, and it doesn't matter how many interviews I do, it's never going to be an easy thing. And obviously, I speak with people with all types of traumatic experiences, but uh,
Sure.
I could feel that when, in a way, when you were saying that, this it's not going to be an easy thing. But as I mentioned, it's all about helping people and breaking
Of
down
course.
what we're doing today. But it's just me to you, just saying thank you
Thank you.
for that, because it's
Of
brave.
course.
It is
Absolutely.
brave. It's brave. Absolutely. No matter
It's
what.
it's it's not an easy thing, but um I feel better now knowing that we can do this now. Back when I, again, when I was younger and growing up, you didn't talk about it. You didn't say anything. You just, as a matter of fact, that's my parents knew what was happening to me. They knew I was being abused and did nothing, said nothing, because you can blame it on the time frame. You can blame it on that they were young parents who didn't know any better, but that's just not acceptable today. And it shouldn't be acceptable. I mean, the damage that it causes, and and you'll see later as I tell you things that happen, it builds. That damage will build until you either heal or somebody comes in and helps you or something. So yeah, but it's gotten easier to talk about because that part of my life wasn't my responsibility. It wasn't my fault. And I think that's one thing that people need to learn that have been through those things younger, is that was not my fault. My job at that time was to be a child, to be a good kid, to have fun, to learn, get, scrape my knees, just have a good time. It's adults and parents that have that responsibility to care for kids and to take care of them. So I look back at that now and I'm like, I have no shame in it. I'm not embarrassed. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. That was done to me. So now my responsibility is, what do I do with that? What do I do with that pain that has happened to me? Now that's my responsibility. That I have control over. I can either let it destroy me and spend the rest of my life in misery and just be depressed, or I can learn from it, get a little stronger, and say, okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do now? And that's the path that I hope more people take. That's what I chose to do. I was like, I can't let this ruin me for the rest of my life. There's too much to do.
Absolutely. Well, that's a powerful message to put out there. It's a very brave decision to make. It's wonderful on so many levels what you're choosing to do with it. Obviously, what you said there about taking the self-blame out and everything and putting that where it rightfully belongs with other people, that is powerful, because obviously people know, and most people know, some people won't, but obviously as children we do put things on our own shoulders that are not
Sure.
with us, and especially in those type of situations. So wow.
We
Okay.
do. I mean, I had an ulcer when I was in the sixth grade. An ulcer is caused from stress mostly. A child should not be having an ulcer, when they're that young. So, the stress on that it's immeasurable, but you can turn that into something good. Absolutely. I've chosen to turn it into good, whether talking to people if they want to ask my story, helping them, and you got to make it a positive. You have to, otherwise it's just gonna tear you up forever. And
Absolutely.
see, and I know I'm not the only one that's been through that. I know there's so many people that have been through that, either an alcoholic father, a violent home, sexual abuse, so many. And you're not alone. You are not the only one. Absolutely not. There's plenty of us out there that are surviving and thriving through all of it.
Absolutely.
Sounds cheesy, but it's true.
No, it is true. It is true. As you mentioned, it's taking that pain. It's all about what we do with it at the end of the day. It's very, very, very powerful message. And thank you so much for sharing that. This is exceeding my expectations already.
Oh,
So, we're doing
thank
really
you.
well. Um, so we'll come back to the military and everything in just a moment. Now, one more question about this topic, and then we'll move into the military. We'll move into, obviously powerlifting, the future. But I have to ask, obviously, you went through a process of carrying these things inside, and then you went through a process of releasing them and speaking about them, which is a very, very brave thing to do. And I think that that's one of the very important things with this that people need to understand. And even in my own life with trauma and things like that, there is a process of pushing it out or just bringing the shutters down on these things, that you don't feel that anymore. I don't even know how it's done, but I've been through that in a different way, but I've been through that. And then obviously when it breaks through and you realize, oh my God, there's something there, and then have to work through it. So basically, can you walk us through what that process was like for you in terms of basically when you started speaking about this, when you started acknowledging this, and a little bit about, again, not anything negative, but your healing journey of even coming to that realization that it wasn't your fault. When did that start to happen? I mean, you mentioned you were an adult, but let's walk about
I
that.
would say it really hit home probably not until a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And if you've seen my Facebook page, I am a Christian. And I will say that that was the deciding factor to me. Now, I grew up Catholic, so I grew up in a church, but I stepped away from that for a while. And then when I came here to Panama City, I just knew that something was not right. And of course, God came in my heart and he's like, okay, we need to find you a good home in a church. And that's really when things started to turn around, when my faith got stronger, it started to grow. And I think also as you get older, you get a little smarter. You know, you start to tell yourself, okay, am I really responsible for those things that happened at that young age? No. And you have to just have a little bit of common sense and a lot of faith to just say, okay. And I started to heal, and I started to get opportunities to talk to people either at church or here at work at the fire department. And I just started to be honest about who I was, because it wasn't something I ever talked about. It's not like you go, out with friends have coffee and, oh, now you're starting to talk about this. And I think that helped me heal as well. As people started to ask me my story, I started to talk about it. And I think that's also a healing process as well. And I think that helped. And for me, I wanted to attack it at all angles. So that's where the powerlifting came in. That's where the eating healthy came in. That's where my faith came in, finding a solid group of people around me. And I think that's what helped that healing finally just sink in and say, okay, you're okay. You're better than okay. You're going to do amazing, because it's not just about healing and then like, okay, being, not mediocre, but just kind of like moving along, right? No, our purpose in life is to have an amazing life. God wants us to have an amazing life, not just a, even kill life. And I finally started to realize that I'm okay, and everything's going to be good. So I attacked it from all angles, and it just takes time. And I think you also have to have that want to heal. You have to have that in you, because no one's going to do it for you. Like I said, we have all kinds of resources, right? We have people out there speaking about different types of pain and hurt, groups, books, podcasts, videos. We have all of these resources now, but they're not going to help you if you can't take that step and say, okay, I want to heal. And I think that's an important thing that people miss. And I think it took me a long time to take that step and say, you know what, I really want to heal. I put so much effort into being a firefighter and to being the best firefighter I can be. Well, why am I not putting that same effort into wanting to heal, to wanting to get past that pain? And I think sometimes that's a step. I don't mean to go off, but I think that's sometimes a step that we miss, that want to say, okay, this has happened to me, or multiple things have happened to me. I need to move on from this. I need to take that step and get over it. Essentially, I know that's sometimes hard for people to hear or say. You need to get over it. Well, essentially, you kind of do. You need to take that step, and I finally did that, and it just kind of all that weight came off. My life started to get better. My smile came back. It's amazing. It's been an amazing journey, but it's definitely not easy. It definitely takes some work, and you have to do that work.
Absolutely. Well, it's a very, very, very good insight into that process that you went through, and that people do go through. There's some very, very good lessons in there, and I'm very happy with that, because that process of healing, yes, we have to be ready for it. We have to oftentimes feel that we deserve it, which was a strange concept that I personally found with my own journey. But there's a lot of sort of sub aspects to that, but and I'm resisting the temptation to go off into this direction, that direction with
No, it's okay.
what you said, because there's so many things contained in what you said. But it's absolutely powerful, and once again, very grateful for you sharing that, because it does show people how to um break through that barrier, basically.
Yeah, you have to take the steps to do it, and what steps work for me may not work for you, may not work for everybody else, but there is a process that will work for you. You just have to do the little bit of work and find it. Maybe you want to join a group, a support group, or maybe you want to read some books, or maybe you want to reach out to someone on Facebook or the internet. I get lots of DM messages of people asking me questions or saying, hey, I'm struggling with this. I see there's so many options out there that you have a huge chance of being successful in getting over that pain and getting over whatever it is that's hurt you, that's kept you from being, 100% you. It's different for everybody. It's not the same, but it's definitely an option for you. And everybody is deserving of that. And I think you are right. I think a lot of times we think we're not worthy. And again, with my faith, you are worthy. God says you're worthy because I made you. And that's the end of it. Okay. Well, if God said I'm worthy, then you know what? Absolutely I am. So, and everybody is. And you are worthy of that healing and that process and that happiness and that smile. So
Absolutely. What a wonderful message. Thank you, because
you're welcome.
and also, seriously, I mean, it's well, the power that you put across, that I can actually feel that, even though we're however many thousands of miles it is, apart, that feel,
Yeah. Yeah.
the power and the strength that you put across it is tangible. So that will really help people. So coming back to the military side of things, and obviously coming back to the firefighting side of things, and achieving your dream there, let's talk about the military side of things first. And
Okay.
one super specific question about it, but just walk us through, your journey with that first of all, and then we'll talk about your dream of being a firefighter, which came true, and we'll talk about powerlifting. But just we started on the military thing, and then we went off into these other topics, which are super valuable. But let's touch on your journey through the military, your experiences there, what you like best about it. Anything you'd like to share about that time of your life would be awesome, please.
I joined the military 3 days after I turned 21. So I went to basic older than most people go into basic training. Again, it was my stepfather's guidance that took me there, and I was excited. I was excited to be serving my country. I don't think you really understand what that means until you're in it, until you get to wear the uniform, until you get to say, okay, you know what, I'm in the military, and that feeling was awesome. Basic training was wonderful. I graduated honor graduate. I was very competitive. I've always been very competitive. So I was like, they said, okay, the person that gets the best test score and the physical score, gets honor graduate. I was like, in the bag, I'm getting it. I was so confident, and it was exciting time. I met a lot of good people. I only stayed in the military for 4 years, 4 years and 3 months to be exact, because I was deployed during 9/11. And when a war happens, you get what's called stop loss. So basically the government says, hey, you're supposed to get out. Sorry, not right now, because we're in the middle of the war. So I got extended 3 months. My time in the military was mixed. The fire academy, I had a great time, but my time active duty was mixed. It was good times and bad. I got hazed so badly in the military. It was awful. I wish I hadn't, because I think I probably would have made the military career. I loved, serving my country. As silly or cliche as that sounds, I loved it. And the only thing that kept me going was the fact that I was a firefighter, serving in the military. So it was a twofold thing. I was fulfilling a dream. So the military gave me, a lot of good experiences. I got to deploy, gave me an education, met a lot of wonderful people. And I recommend it to anybody that just, wants to do something good with their life. So parts of it I loved, parts of it I didn't. You know, if someone were to ask me now, should they join the military? I would say it's a personal choice, but just know it's not always going to be easy. It was definitely not easy for me. So imagine, you know, the childhood that I had the rough upbringing. Then I get a little bit of break when I got a little older. Then I joined the military and I'm 21, and all of a sudden the military is not treating me so well. So I'm like, you remember when I said, yeah, I wanted to get away from that. Well, I got a little more taste of it when I was in the military. So I'm just, you know, at that time, I'm like, oh, geez, I'm trying to do good. And here I am again getting, yeah, I got sexually harassed and hazed so bad in the military. It was, it was, it was painful because I didn't expect that. You know, when we think about military and firefighting, you think camaraderie, right? You think, okay, sisterhood, right? Sisterhood, brotherhood, teamwork. Well, part of it was, but the other part on me was rough. I mean, there were days where I would show up to the fire station in tears because that's how hard people were being on me. I mean, I was upset stomach, but I kept gutting it out because I'll be darned if I was going to let some people ruin my dream. So that's what kept me going. So I got to wear the uniform. I got to be a firefighter. And while there was some things happening that I just didn't appreciate, I just kept telling myself, this is my dream and no one's going to ruin it. And that's the mentality that I kept during my duration in the military.
Wow. Well, first of all, the fact you achieved your dream, focusing on the positive side of it, well done. I mean, especially pushing through everything that you've been through, as you mentioned, including everything with childhood, and then going through all of that again with hazing, bullying, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty brutal actually hearing it like that. But
Yeah.
the side I'll focus on is how you got through that, and um, you did that. And another thing that we will get to the actual powerlifting shortly, but we've talked about some really good stuff here that will really help people. In terms of your faith and everything, were you a part of the church during your time in the military, or did that come later? Just to get the timeline, because I was just curious if your faith actually helped you get through that time as well, or if that was something that you found later on in life, just with the timeline there.
That was a time where I actually lost it.
Okay.
That is a very significant amount of time where I did not rely on my faith. And that was a rough time in my life. Um, my faith had kind of during my life gone up and down, close to God, away from God, close to God, away from God. But when I landed in Panama City in 2018, so there's the time frame for you, 2018 till now, that's when it really stayed solid. That's where it really kicked in. And, you know, again, older, smarter, that's where it really stayed. But through my life, through the tough times, I would say sometimes I would be close to God, sometimes I wouldn't. And now that I look back, the times that I wasn't, pretty tough, pretty rough. I mean, and even if you're not, a really devoted Christian or follower, you're still going to have times when you're struggling and in your mind you reach out to God. God, please help me. So I had those moments, but none where I was, fully committed. Now I wish my faith would have stayed through my entire life. Probably would have been a lot easier for me. But yeah, no, my faith didn't come in solid until I landed here in Panama City in 2018.
Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense, and it's in a way, I mean, our faith gets tested in life. I'm a very spiritual person as well, by the way, and our faith gets tested in life, and I used to think of it that as a negative, and of the times when I felt not so much lost, but felt almost bitter of like, oh, why is this happening to me? And then you flip that on its head and think, well, actually,
Yes.
happening for a reason. And especially when you look back and you can see the sort of synchronicity, I think they call it, you can see the plan of, this led to this and this led to this, and it all worked
Yes.
the
Yeah.
right way, even though that was a bad situation, but it led to something good.
Yeah.
But that is usually, I mean, speaking for myself personally, people I know, it's usually more apparent looking back on it than when you're going through it at the time.
Yeah.
But I think that is part of the journey, because if our faith was strong all the time, it wouldn't really be what it is. It wouldn't really, we wouldn't really have that.
Correct. Yeah.
So
You have to grow.
yeah, absolutely, my personal view on it. But it's profound to touch on that. And I will say to people watching this as well, regardless of what you believe in, I mean, obviously, Jess, we're both here talking about believing in God and everything. But I'll say to people, regardless of what you believe in, whether you believe in a higher power, you don't know what that higher power is, whether you're not sure if there's a higher power, what it doesn't matter from that point of view. Faith is always the opposite of fear in any situation. And
It
having
is.
trust in something bigger than yourself, whatever form that takes for people listening to this personally, whatever form they put that in, that's cool. But the
Right.
trust something being bigger than yourself, it's a powerful experience,
It is.
So
It is. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm glad we got to mention that. And again, like I said earlier, with the the power of conviction that you have about your message earlier about overcoming this emotional pain and everything. In the same way, your faith is also tangible. I don't mean that to sound strange, but
No,
it's
no.
almost a glow that you have. Is the only way I can put that.
Well, I'm on track to being a pastor.
Oh,
That's one of my future. You asked me about future plans, or we talk about it later. But yeah, I'm on track. I've been going to school, and that's one of my goals. Hopefully, within a year, I'll be fully ordained pastor. It's one
oh,
of my. Look at that. It's crazy how God works in your life.
absolutely. Well, that's wonderful
Yeah.
news because absolutely
Thank you.
wonderful news because then you can really spread you can really spread this message. You can spread the hope and the forgiveness and the possibilities and just so many things we've talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really does glow. That's the only
Thank
word
you.
I can think of.
Well, they say let your mess be your ministry, right?
And sure do.
I got a whole lot of mess. I'm 45. I've been through so many things that, you know, how could I not want to share that with people and say, hey, look, there's hope. Trust me. So, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
absolutely my goal is to spread to as many people as I can, however I can. Um, yeah,
Well, that
you
is
can heal. There's hope for you. Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely is. That is wonderful, wonderful work actually. Well, I wish you good luck on that journey. And I'm sure
Thank you.
when when you've completed that and you're into that process, it will help touch a lot of lives. I mean, that's the
That's
main
right.
thing. Absolutely. So, talking about, because we will come to the future again shortly, but before we do, talking about powerlifting itself and your journey through
Okay.
sports, let's start with the initial inspiration, where you first got the idea to want to lift weights, to want to do that. What was the initial inspiration for you?
So I was in Bahrain in the Middle East as a civilian with the Navy. I went over in 2015 and landed in a country by myself that I didn't know. And the base itself had a nice gym. And honestly, I walked into the gym. I mean, I had always been in sports my entire life, kind of worked out here and there. But for whatever reason, I walked in the gym and I was like, I can do this. Okay. So, me being the overachiever that I am, I got onto Amazon, bought books on powerlifting, bought as many as I could, had them shipped over through Amazon, started studying how to powerlift. And that's how it really, that's honestly what happened. I basically walked into a gym and said, I can do that. And then I started lifting weight, and a couple of people I worked out with said, you're pretty good at this. And I'm like, okay, well, I feel pretty good. Let's just add more weight to the bar. And then they just kept adding weight to different things. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And I really just found peace in it. Like that feeling of being strong and moving something spoke to me. The way that people that are runners, you talk to runners, they say that it's therapeutic to them, that when they run, they get this peace feeling, right? Even though they're working, they're sweating, they're breathing heavy, they still get this peace. I found that in powerlifting. It just resonated with me, and it just felt good to move something heavy. I know that sounds silly, but most powerlifters or strongman or people in strength sports will tell you there is something that just clicks with you, that it just clicked with me, and I stuck with it from the whole time I was in the Middle East until now. And then I made a friend over there who was actually a Navy SEAL who was doing strongman training. And he happened to see me shopping at the store on base, and he said, "Hey, I've seen you around base. Would you like to come to our compound and learn some strongman stuff?" And I'm okay, sure. And he just upped that notch of my interest. And I said, okay, well, I didn't really know anything about the sport. And he said, let me give you a couple of names of some power lifters that I admire. So he sent me an email with a list of names. And one of them, the very first name, was Brandon Lilly. Well, Brandon Lilly is now my coach. So when I Googled Brandon, I was like, wow, okay, this guy's amazing. And in my mind, when I first saw that, I said, I'm going to know that guy someday. And I watched an interview with him, and his advice was seek out the best people you can in whatever it is you're interested in, right? Running, tennis, golf, whatever it is, and seek those people out. And I was like, okay, I'm going to seek him out. And that's what I did. So when I landed in Florida, I had a few years of powerlifting teaching myself under my belt. And I emailed him, and here we are, still, Brandon and I still a team, and he's still coaching me. So isn't that amazing?
That is amazing in
Yeah.
the sense of the word, and obviously meant to be, really, because when these serendipitous things happen and you think, okay, where did that
Yes.
come from? It's obviously
Yes.
it is meant to be. So, and I totally get what you were saying as well about the lifting and the peace that you find in that, because it's such a common thing that I hear from athletes at the high level, and obviously people talk about the endorphins and the chemical aspect, which is
Mhm.
true, very, very beneficial. And obviously there is something sort of primal about sports and about lifting and all this type
Yes.
of thing. But at the same time, the mental piece that it can bring, and I think it's deeper than just the chemicals.
It is. It is. I agree with you. It is a lot deeper than that.
Mm.
And for somebody, not just myself, but for somebody that has been through a lot in their life, whatever that something is, it's going to come out somewhere. It's going to come out either in your personality being angry. It's going to come out maybe in alcohol or drugs. It's going to come out of you, because no human is equipped to keep all of that pain and suffering inside. And it came out for me. It helped in my healing with powerlifting. I've had people tell me too sometimes that they'll watch my video and they tell me they can see that there's a greater purpose into me just lifting a bar. I didn't realize that until a couple people had mentioned it to me. And there is. And now that I think about it, I'm like, there is. So, every time I lift, a little bit of that hurt and anger just goes away every time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And it's therapeutic on all levels. So yeah, running, tennis, whatever it is, might click. And powerlifting did that for me. And then I was pretty much self-taught. And then when I met Brandon, I was like, oh my goodness, here I am with like the Michael Jordan of powerlifting. I was so nervous. And he was critiquing, some things. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to start all over again. And he goes, what? And I was like, I know I'm going to have to learn how to deadlift all over again. He goes, no, just a couple little tweaks. You're doing great. And I was like, really? I'm like, okay. So I was like, so then, that little bit of confidence from someone that you admire and look up to also helped. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And just been steady improvements. And as you get steady improvements in your sport, well, they also affect your insides. It's a steady improvement in you and your spirit and your inner strength and your healing. And it's amazing. I think anybody in sports can relate to that. Anybody that participates in a sport or competes or whatever can say that as you get better at it, you also get better as a person and on the inside. It's amazing. I love it. I'm so blessed that my body allows me to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, what you've touched on there with the healing, well, you've touched on a few things. I mean, what you said earlier on about surrounding yourself with the right people is super important in any pursuit in life, really. We become who we surround ourselves with. I think people say that we become
Yes.
the sum total of the 5 people with whom we spend the most time.
Yes.
Super true.
Yeah.
Um, Looking at when you take advice from people, are we taking advice from good people? Because obviously so many people let opinions stop them. And the thing about that is most times those opinions are coming from people who don't actually know what they're talking about. And it, not to be blunt, but that is mostly what it
No,
is.
but it's true.
It's mostly, and I've heard that a lot where people say to someone else, oh, you can't do that or whatever. And I look at it, I think, yeah, but that person hasn't done it themselves. They're just putting what they can't do onto
Yeah.
someone else. So surrounding yourself with people who have achieved what you want to achieve,
Yeah.
who are coming from a knowledgeable place, great life lesson. And in terms of the healing with sports, absolutely, it is such a healing process to be part of that. It's well, you've described it better than I can, but the beautiful description that you just gave there. So consistently improving and consistently enjoying the process of getting better so far. One thing I would like to touch on here is obviously lifting weights to the level that you do. There is like a pain barrier to push through, and this is something that fascinates me again because it's applicable to all life areas. It's not just applicable to sports. Anything we want to do in life to get better at that thing, there's always going to be pushing through a bit of a pain barrier and then coming out the other
Yes.
side. For you personally, how do you do that? How do you make the decision to push through that and then come out the other side of it, basically?
I've had two shoulder surgeries in the midst of my short powerlifting career. I have a torn meniscus right now. So physical pain when I lift. The key for me is knowing that I need to rest and rehab. And, if you're a type A personality or an alpha person, or, you're very committed to your sport like I am, it is oftentimes difficult for you to take a step back and say, okay, you know what? I need to take a rest day. Because nobody wants to take a rest day because then you've missed that day of progressing. And for me to push past pain, I'm not a huge fan of, taking a pain pill for this or taking a pain pill for that, although sometimes it is necessary. It's the rest and the mental rest, the physical rest, the rest I get when I'm with my dog sitting and just taking a moment to be calm, and the rehab. I do ice baths. I love ice baths, massages. So yeah, that's how I, push past the pain. I mean, something is always hurting. If you're an athlete, especially if you're an elite athlete or you're competing, something's always going to hurt. You're never going to step into your sport or the gym and be 100% pain free. Oh, I'm great. Yeah. Part of it is you need to rest and rehab. And the other part is just mental, and that fine line of, okay, if I push it today, am I going to injure myself? Okay. If you're going to injure yourself, then you need to take a day. But if it's just like a little bit nagging, okay, can you work through this? And I usually decide, like, if it's something really nagging, I'll stretch, warm up for about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If by then it's still persistent, then I'm like, okay, I either need to take a rest day or something needs to be adjusted. And then of course I'll let my coach know, say, hey, you know what, this part of me is just really nagging. And so we'll adjust the training. There's always something you can do to adjust, but you just have to know your body. And when you've been in a sport so long, you definitely learn your body and what you're capable of. So, and then some of it is just, your grit, mind over matter. Can I push past this? Yes. And 99% of the time you can. Absolutely you can. Once you get going, then like you said, the endorphins kick in and you're like, yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. Cause I've started many a workout just, something hurts today, my back, my knee, my shoulders, whatever. And then I get going. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I could totally do this. And then sometimes I'll even PR. I'll get a personal record that day. I'm like, okay, cool. So that's why I push past pain.
Absolutely, absolutely amazing. And it is really cool because it's an insight into the mental side of sports, really, which other athletes will know, but people from the outside looking in, obviously, they don't see that part. They see the tip of the iceberg of, as you say, personal record or personal best or an achievement, but they don't see sort of what's going on in your head and in your heart as well. So it's very valuable to touch on that.
Yeah.
The future. I'm excited to ask you about the future, though, because obviously there's some good things coming up from here. And, you said that you're hoping to compete soon. And obviously let's talk a little bit about that. And I don't really mind how far ahead if you want to talk about short term, just a little way, or if you want to go like,
Okay.
this time next year where you want. I mean, I'm easy about that, but just your
Okay.
dreams and goals, basically.
Okay, so obviously competing is probably in my future. The reason why it got delayed so long is, if you've seen the numbers that females put up, they're pretty high numbers. So my goal for me right now with my 1,000 pound total, I'm at 975, but I haven't tried to PR in a while. So I'm getting there. So I'm feeling a little more confident in my numbers. When I step on a platform, that'll be for Brandon to decide to say, okay, I think you're ready now. In the meantime, it's been a personal goal. So, that for me will happen when he says I'm ready, then I'm good with that. I'm going to college full time, like I said, to get my degree in theology. I already earned my associates, so I'm working on my bachelor's degree. Hopefully, be a pastor in a year, which I'm super excited about. I already have an idea to start a ministry. I have a name for it and everything. I purchased one website already to start it. Now I'm waiting on an answer for the other part of the website. So I've got that in the books. Working on my branding and logo for that ministry. The goal is to take that money and just donate it. So I'd like to give where I can. So that's a huge goal of mine. There's so many people in need, so many things out there that need funding. So I'm hoping to do that, and I really want to combine lifting with my faith. So that will be the basis of the ministry, and I've already titled it Bibles and Barbells. So I want to combine, that strength and faith with that strength in the body to kind of come together and mesh them together. So I'm working on that. That's a project that I'm working on, and just kind of keep going and seeing where God wants me to be. So I'm excited about that. I've gotten other leadership opportunities with my church here, some future ministry work next year that I'm looking forward to. What else? Just just continue to learn and grow in the sport, in my faith. So I'm excited. I'm really excited, and I've touched base with a few people. I've made some friends on Facebook. You as well. You reached out to me. That are giving me other opportunities to grow my ministry and my faith. So that's exciting. I'm working on my master diver. I do rescue diving on the side. I actually started that up because I was afraid of the water. So like 2 years ago, I was, definitely afraid of the ocean. And I thought, what can I do to get over it? I'm like, I know, I'll just be a rescue diver. So I made friends with a gentleman here at a local dive shop, and he's been my instructor for 2 years. So we'll be working on my master diver this summer, and I'll be doing that rescue diving on the side. And then something when I retire also will be fun to do my rescue diving. So that's exciting as well. I really love that. I'll be diving this Friday, so I'll probably post some pictures and stuff of diving. And so, yeah.
Wow.
So rescue diving, ministry, powerlifting, that's what I'll be doing. I can retire from firefighting, I think in like 4 years. So not too far off. I had planned on staying longer in the fire service, but I think I've had an amazing career with firefighting. So I think that's just about a wrap. I've been a wildland firefighter with the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force. I've been all over the world with my firefighting career. So I think for me, that's almost about a wrap on that. I think there's other things that God's pushing me towards. So yeah, I've had a blessed career, and now it's time to move on probably to some other things. So continue with the lifting, like I said, ministry and diving, kind of where my heart's going.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. Well, I love what you were well, I love all of it, but what you were saying about your ministry and setting that up. What I'll say as well is when you're further along with that, we can do this again as well.
I would love to.
Yeah, update people on that. That's absolutely cool with me. I don't say that very often. I do say that to people occasionally when they've got something big coming up. Say, yeah, okay, when that's happening, come back. So
I will.
we'll do an update with that 100%. But
I
uh,
would love that.
in the meantime, I mean, the future is very, very bright, isn't it? I mean, it's you've
It
really
is.
uh,
Yes.
wonderful things on the
Yes.
horizon, and you've come such a long way in your life as a person and as an athlete as well. And it sounds like the best is actually yet to come, though.
I agree.
So
Yeah, I agree.
it does sound.
Yeah. But look, isn't that amazing what you can, I mean, yeah, I look back on my life and I think, you know what, all these crummy things did happen, but it's going to be okay. It is okay. Look, I mean, I have, friends, gods in my life. I have my 4 rescue dogs that I love to pieces. I have a little home. Like life is just has been really wonderful to me, and yeah, it's been good. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the best is coming for sure. God is really moving in my life, and I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful to have gone through all those things that I have been through. I'm okay with it now. It's God meant that all for good. And all of those painful experiences are going to be turned into something good because I'll be able to help people. And that's the goal, to help people live their best life. And just spread love and spread the fact that you're not alone. You know, there's somebody out there that has been through and survived and thriving with the same story that you have. Yeah. We're not, we like to think we're special. We're not really special. Somebody has gone through what you have gone through. We're special in our own way. Sure, we're unique, but so I'm here to tell you, you're not the only one that's hurting or have been hurt, and you'll be okay.
Absolutely. That is a powerful way to close out. Absolutely amazing. It gives people hope and positivity and so many things. And I will say to our audience as well, anybody who wants to help out with Jesse's cause, I mean, it doesn't really matter where you are in the world these days with this technology, so many things are possible. So I'll say feel free to reach out. You're on Facebook, Jess.
Yes.
Give a quick shout out to where people can reach out to you, please, if that's all right.
Okay. Right now, I'm only on Facebook. I have a friend that's helping me work on Instagram. I'm new to social media. I only joined Facebook in February, so I'm still learning. They can reach out to me. You'll see my name, Jessica Cervantes, has a little blue check by it, so it's me. If you see another one, it's not me. It's a fake account. They can DM me. I have no problem with that. Send me a message. Once the website is up and running, I'll put that out on there, but the logo and stuff is almost done. It's still in the works, so they'll be able to reach out through that website as well. Once I have that, I'll put that up for sure, and then you and I will touch base again, and it's going to be good. So
Absolutely.
excited. Yeah.
We will. As I said, the future is very bright. But for now, Jess, I'd like to just say thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
sharing everything as well. As I've said, it is very brave. Um, I know it's what you like to do with sharing your message, and it's what you're going to be doing more of very soon. But it is still very
Yes.
brave. So because I was funny enough, I was saying to somebody recently that really doing an interview is basically public speaking, because even though it's us talking now, when it goes out, obviously people watch and everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you know, but I read a thing a little while ago that public speaking is actually the number one fear people have in the world. And when they've done surveys on this, more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of actually
I've
dying.
heard that.
Yeah. So
I've heard that.
you've heard that. There we are. So what you've
Yes.
done today conquered the number one fear that most people have. So I think that deserves a clap.
Okay. I am okay with public speaking though. I'm totally okay
Okay.
with it.
Well,
But you're
absolutely.
right. I have heard that. I absolutely have heard that. But I like to teach. I like to talk to people. So, well, now I do. I would say when I'm younger, no. But yeah, yeah. Thank you. And you made it so easy. Thank you so much for talking to me. And I look forward to talking again. And hopefully we can just keep in contact. I would really like that. I'll keep you posted. You keep me posted on you and your family. I would like that.
I'd like that as well. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.